I have a statement that I would like to make today. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Somebody needs to hear this. Your obedience is better than sacrifice to the Lord. Obedience is better than sacrifice. And somebody may say, what are you talking about? Well, as I was reading over 1 Samuel chapter 15, and when you get a chance, please go back and read the entire chapter for yourself so you can kind of know what I'm talking about. If you do not know what I'm talking about, go back and read it for yourself. But what it made me think about was in that chapter, Saul was the king of Israel. For those who don't know, Samuel was a prophet that the Lord used to go and speak. Back in those days, the Lord actually used a prophet to go and tell somebody what he needed them to do. So with Saul being the king over Israel, he was telling him what he needed Saul to do. So Saul was commanded by the Lord that he was going to go and destroy the nation of the Amalekites. The Amalekites was against Israel. They was opposing them for many years. So the Lord was going to have Saul and his army go and destroy the Amalekites nation. And they was told to go and destroy everything. This was the Lord's command. Okay, this was the Lord's command. The Lord had commanded Saul, when you go, you must destroy everything. Well, what do you think Saul did? Do you think Saul did it, or do you think Saul was disobedient? Probably like how we could be when it comes to the Lord, when he asks us to do something. See, what Saul did, he went there and he did what he wanted to do. He destroyed some things. But see, Saul didn't destroy everything. See, Saul kept what Saul wanted to keep. See, what was worthless and useless, he destroyed that. But what was good, he kept that. See, he did what he wanted to do. And after he did what he wanted to do, guess what? God was through. And God sent message through the prophet Samuel to tell Saul he was done. Because Saul wanted to continue to do things his way and not the Lord's way. And we have to think about that on today. Do we continue to do things our way instead of the Lord's way? And that'll make God wash his hands and walk away. I want you to think about it now. See, when Saul kept wanting to do things his way, the Lord took his anointing away from Saul because Saul got in the way of Saul. And sometimes that can be like us today. We can very well get up in our way. See, what the prophet Samuel had to tell Saul was, obedience is better than sacrifice to the Lord. See, he was telling him, it doesn't matter that you want to sacrifice to the Lord. You have to be obedient to him. See, what Saul wanted to do, the animals, the cattle, the sheep, all the things that he kept for himself, he wanted to sacrifice that to the Lord. So he was telling Samuel, yes, I kept that good stuff, but I'm going to sacrifice it to the Lord. But see, Samuel was telling him, it doesn't work that way. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Because see, is it anything wrong with us sacrificing things to the Lord? But the problem comes when we want to sacrifice things to the Lord after we've been disobedient to him. I want you to think about it now. And see, when I said, and I thought about Saul being disobedient to the Lord, well, I thought about my life. And as well as I'm thinking about my life, I want you to think about your life on today. Could it been a time in your life, or could it still be right now in your life where the Lord has been dealing with you? And the Lord has been asking you to do something. The Lord has been telling you, this is what I need of you. But see, what you do is say, well, I'm not going to do it the Lord's way. I'm just going to make a sacrifice to the Lord on today and continue living my way. Let me give you a couple of examples what a sacrifice can be. Back in that time, in the Old Testament days, yes, they sacrificed animals and all that stuff. They sacrificed sheep and cattle. They sacrificed that. But see, today in our time, what could we be sacrificing to make God turn the other cheek? And see, that's the same thing that Saul thought that he was going to do. I'm going to just sacrifice this stuff to the Lord and he'll be happy and he'll turn his other cheek. See, for some of us, just like I know that I was guilty of, I felt like, well, as long as I go to church. See, we sacrifice to say, I'm going to church. So I felt like as long as I go to church, I can still do what I want to do. And God will overlook the sinful things that I want to do. See, it could be with paying money in church. See, a lot of people feel like this. They're out there, just like I was guilty of. Let me raise my hand. We out there living any kind of way, continue to do things our way, but we figure long as I put a little money this way, God will look the other way. See, a lot of us feel like as long as I go to church and pay my tithes, I'm good with God. As long as I do a little volunteer work, I'm good with God. See, some of us join these committees and everything because we want God to see, hey, God, I'm sacrificing my time. I'm sacrificing my money. I'm on this committee. I'm doing this and that. And what we really want, we want God to turn the other cheek for the sinful things that we're doing. And God is saying, it doesn't work that way. See, just like he told Saul back then, and it's the same thing today. The Lord is saying, I want your obedience. See, like it says in Romans 12:1, if you ever get a chance, go back and read that. He wants us to give our body as a living sacrifice. And when you give your body to the Lord as a living sacrifice, that means that you're surrendering all to him. You're surrendering everything to live for him. It's no longer our way, but it's God's way. See, instead of me wanting to fix my foul mouth, or instead of me wanting to stop sleeping around and live the right way, we want to just pay our money. We want to do good deeds for people and hope God looks the other way. And could that be you on today? Yes, you go out, you help people. You go out and do work at the homeless shelter. You feed people. You take people around. But could that very be things that you do so God can overlook you? I want you to think about it now. Yes, you're doing all these things, but are you doing these things because you're obedient to God? Or are you disobedient to God? Because there's nothing wrong with us giving a sacrifice to the Lord. Is it anything wrong with us helping people? It's nothing wrong at all with us helping and doing for people. But what some people can get caught up in, just like I was guilty of, I can continue living my way. As long as I'm doing these good deeds, maybe the Lord will look the other way. I'm here to tell somebody on today, the Lord is not overlooking your sin and he's not looking the other way. Obedience is better than sacrifice to the Lord. Are you obedient to him? What is it that the Lord has been dealing with you with about? You will not straighten up. You will not do right, but you just feel like, but I get up, I go to church every Sunday. I pay my money. I go do this. See, just like one woman was telling me, she goes to another county. She pick up food. She bring it back to her neighborhood and she gives it away. Now, is it anything wrong with her doing that? But just like she said, she's still living and doing things her way. And I'm telling you right now, when you still want to do things your way, you're not doing things God's way, and God will not be pleased. The same way he wasn't pleased with Saul. What is it that God been dealing with you with? Are you somebody who love to go home and you cuss out your kids, but you overlook it because, but I'm doing this. You're mistreating your husband and your spouse. I want you to think about it. You mistreating your husband or you mistreating your wife, but you overlooking it because I'm doing this. It's okay for me to talk like this. I'm doing this over here. Somebody, God been dealing with you with your nasty attitude. You got a nasty attitude. You don't know how to talk to people or treat people. The Lord has been dealing with you with that. But what you say, but I do this. I give canned goods. I give toys to the children on Christmas. Is that what you do? Let's just think, I give away free turkeys. See, that's what we think. I have a toy drive. I give away free turkeys to people. So the Lord don't mind me going out. The Lord don't mind me sleeping around. The Lord don't mind me fighting and cussing and stealing. The Lord don't mind me doing that because I do this. I want you to think about it now. Obedience is better than sacrifice to the Lord. And some of us, we better get with it before we get left behind. I tried it, and let me tell you again, sat in church, paid my tithes, helped people, did good deeds for people, and I was on a one-way ticket on my way to hell because I was not obedient to the Lord. I was making sacrifices, but I wasn't sacrificing that sinful life. See, that's what God is telling us right now. Sacrifice that sinful life. That's what God wants you to sacrifice. See, God wants you to say, don't talk that way no more. Don't dress that way no more. Don't live that way no more. What is it that God been dealing with you about? But you just keep saying, but as long as I keep, helping them pay bills over here, as long as I keep sending money over here, as long as I keep sending money to the Red Cross, or as long as I just keep sending money over here to the Cancer Society, I'm good with God. Are you really good with God? Because if you're disobedient to God, you're not good with God. Because a lot of us are walking around here, I was guilty of it, thinking that, hey, I'm good with God. But if we get real and when we start to have a true relationship with the Lord, he will tell you, you are not good with me. Because God will tell you on his own, you are disobedient to me. You're not living for me. So why in the world would you be good with me? I want you to think about that now. See, back in the day, he used a prophet because the Heavenly Father hasn't came, he didn't come yet and die for our sins. But now we're living in a time the Lord deals with us right now one-on-one. It's no excuse. And a lot of us, we know that the Lord been dealing with us about our bad attitude. The Lord been dealing with us about our smoking and our drinking, in the places we go, in the way we dress, in the way we talk to people. The Lord been dealing with us. The Lord been dealing with us about us cheating on them taxes. The Lord been dealing with us about them schemes and the way we've been getting over on people. You know what we tell the Lord. But Lord, I help them people out. Yeah, it don't matter if I do this, but Lord, I give money. I be helping them people pay them bills. It don't matter, Lord, if I'm claiming them children that ain't mine on them taxes. I be helping with them. You know how we do. We want to make up every excuse. But the Lord is saying, I need your obedience over your sacrifice. And again, it's nothing wrong with you sacrificing to the Lord, but make sure that you're living for the Lord. So when you get a chance, go over, and it's different verses also in the Bible too that talks about how obedience is better than sacrifice to the Lord. When you get a chance, you just have to go back over it. And like I always say, go over Google. Google that stuff. Anything that you think that may be in that word, you Google it and you go back, you get in it and you read it for yourself, because it's no excuse for us not knowing this stuff for ourselves, because we know everything else that we want to know. So for somebody, please remember, obedience is better than sacrifice to the Lord. He wants us to give our body as a living sacrifice. And when you give your body to the Lord, you're saying, I'm giving everything, Lord, up to you. I'm giving up everything that don't represent you. What is it on today that the Lord has been dealing with you with? But you are one of those people who think, as long as I go to church, as long as I do volunteer work, as long as I give my money, as long as I do this, as long as I do that, that makes you right with God. You do not want your eyes to close and you find out that you are not right with God. That's the last thing that you want. You do not want your eyes to close and you find out that you were not right with God. Obedience is better than sacrifice. So seek the Lord to know the Lord, and you can truly understand the Lord. And when your eyes close, you will be living with him and you will get to be greeted by him. So I always remember my closing. Self-examination is the best examination. And Jesus Christ is Lord, and he's all we have. Have a great rest of the day.